Hey everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, ChicagoJazz.com. This is episode 93 of Jazz This Week, live at Johnny O's. We have Margaret Murphy-Webb on the show today. We're going to talk Southside Jazz Coalition, her brand new gig every Saturday night at Benny's Chop House right downtown, a show you've got coming up as part of the Jazz City for the Chicago Jazz Institute, and much more, so stick around. We're coming right back. Back here at Johnny O's, and as I ask everyone, Margaret, have you ever talked jazz at a hot dog stand in Bridgeport?
No, I haven't, and I have to say that it's very hard concentrating with this, my favorite meal in front of me, hot dogs with pickles and french fries.
It's calling your name, but you'll have to wait.
Mark, okay, all right, let's go.
You have to wait. But you do have some history down in this neighborhood we talked about a little bit before we came on camera, completely unrelated to jazz. Didn't your sister or somebody used to work at the Spiegel building right across the street?
My sister worked at Spiegel, so I used to come and meet her sometimes, and we would walk through Bridgeport, and yes, I did. And we were not Southsiders.
Oh, you weren't?
No, I grew up on the West Side.
Oh.
So she would come from the West Side, and she would come to work over here. And she was there until it closed. What year did it close? I don't remember.
I think early 90s, late 80s.
She was there until it closed.
Because that's when this Johnny O's hidden dining room here. If you come into Johnny O's, and everybody gets confused, I know I met Margaret outside because she was like, are you taking me into this weird, strange grocery store? But it's a cool grocery store, total throwback. They've got the hot dog stand, and then they have a hidden dining room, which is going to open at some point very soon. Possibly on episode 100, we're going to have a live studio audience in here.
How cool is that?
How about that?
Cool. That's cool.
You get to see Mike Jeffers live and in person.
Oh my God, it's a lot. It's a lot.
She's trying to get.
I'm being overwhelmed sitting here next to him, guys. You don't know this guy here.
God,
he doesn't stop.
Please.
You don't stop, brother.
But this used to be a place where all of these Spiegel employees used to come to. So that's a fun fact, the first fun fact of Jazz This Week. So we're going to get into the jazz. We need to find out more about you. She started the Southside Jazz Coalition. She has gigs coming up. She's a former police officer for the Chicago PD. But before we get into all of that, Margaret, quick background on you. You grew up, as we talked about a little bit, in Garfield Park, Chicago.
Yep, on the west side of Chicago.
Did you grow up in a musical household? How did you get involved with music?
No. I grew up in a household that was very religious. I was a Seventh-day Adventist, and if anybody is familiar with that religion, it's pretty much nothing except church.
Really?
Nothing. There is no gospel in church. There is no soul music. Everything is anthems. It's very, very structured.
Wow.
So, but what helped me is that my daddy owned a record shop. And we all had to work in the record shop. So I would go to the record shop and I would just play records. I would listen to everyone. My mother didn't know. My father knew, but my mother didn't know. So my father encouraged me to listen to music, but my mother, when I got home, none of that. Cut that out. So
how did you deal with your father owning a record store and then it being so religious in the house?
It pays the bills. Well, my dad didn't go to church.
Oh.
My father was a heathen, the way that I am now. I'm following his footsteps. But no, my mom was the church person in the house, and we all had to go to church. But the good thing about church is that I took piano lessons from the church organist. So that's where I learned piano. I took 12 from I think 6 to 12 years old.
So the record store really got you into all of the modern music at the time and
listening
jazz
to it, yes, because my dad loved jazz. So he had they weren't old then, but he had albums, and I remember listening to Lena Horne over and over and over again. Matter of fact, the first jazz song I learned was "Watch What Happens" because I heard Lena Horne sing that song.
How did you finally get to a point where you could actually? Was it a choir? Was it something that you began to sing?
I sang in the choir. I was in the choir, I talk about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but the good thing about that music is that harmony. I have an exceptional ear for harmony because in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, it's not really about the gospel or the rhythm or the beat. It's all about harmony. Sometimes there were 6-part harmonies.
Oh.
And I had to learn how to hear it and to sing it. So that was a wonderful foundation. For jazz.
Sure.
Especially for jazz.
So how did you suddenly get into the jazz scene or get into professional music or play a gig? You're playing in choirs and all that. Did it happen in school? What was the...
Well, I left home at 18. I got married. And after my husband and I parted ways, I started dating a musician. You musicians always get singers in trouble. Remember singers. And he asked me, maybe I was 23. 22, 23. He asked me if I would go to a rehearsal with him. I went to a rehearsal. Their singer didn't show up. And he said, you know all the songs. Can you do the gigs? So I'm like, oh my God, he wants me to set up.
Now, until then, you were just kind of playing
I was just playing
at
it.
home.
Yeah, I was just singing at home. Blah, 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 blah. And I went and I did the gig. I was horrible. I was horrible. And it was an R&B gig. So anybody that knows me knows I'm not really an R&B singer. And it was awful. But, you know, I caught the bug, and I wanted to do it. So I sang with his band for a while. And then when I was about 24, I decided that I wanted to get more into jazz because I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. And, you know, people that don't do jazz, they don't realize that you have to study. You really have to study to do jazz because there's a lot more than just stand up and singing the song. And so I went to see Vince Willis, keyboardist.
Yep.
And I asked him, you know, if he could give me some pointers, and he told me, go see Von Freeman. And that's how that started. I was 24 years old.
Wow. Did you go to a jam session where Von was?
I went to, at that time, he was at the El Matador, because then he went to the Enterprise. But he was at the El Matador, and I went, and Mike, I was overwhelmed because all these singers were there. Paula Greer, Charlotte Foster, Donna Swope, Jerry Mitchell. All these women were there, and these women were getting up, and they were doing things that I had no idea. I was like, I can't do that.
Killing it, right?
Killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Plus, Von's there, so the band's probably... Who's in the band at that point, do you remember?
I think it was Al Farrakhan. Might have been playing keys. A lot of people didn't even know that Farrakhan had a brother, Al Farrakhan, who was a keyboard player, jazz keyboard player. No kidding. Yes.
Wow.
And Mindai Davis was on bass. I don't remember who the drummer was, but I was just...
It's a smoking band. There's like killing singers there, and you're walking in fairly green.
Just young and green, and just thought I was just in heaven because I loved it, but I was afraid. So Paula Greer came in the back and said, "Baby," and I know I talk like them now, and like Von, "Baby, baby, can you sing?" And I was like, "Well, I can sing a little bit." And she said, "Well, come on up here." And I knew, watch what happens. I didn't know the key. I didn't know anything. And so the piano player followed me, and I said, I'm going to work on this song. I'm going to work on this song. I went back every Tuesday and sang that song.
Same song.
The same song for, I think, a year.
Really?
A year.
Well, at least they knew what they were going to play when they saw you.
And someone was nice enough to say, your key is C.
Oh.
This is the key you're singing it in. So that's the first time I learned. And get a book. Paula said, get a book and start learning songs. I mean, the women, the way that they embraced me and taught me, which is why I have a jazz session today. I'm trying to do the same thing. And that's how I got started. And then Von Freeman, one time I came in and I said, watch what happens. And I said, cold. He said, cut the band. Because, back in the day, Von was very hard on everyone. You would start a song and he'd cut you off. And he'd have one of the good singers come up and sing the very song you were going to sing.
Oh, really?
Yes, and you'd just be in the back mortified. Oh. But he would say that's a teaching experience.
Yeah.
So I went into my song, and he cut it. He said, don't come back until you learn something else, baby. Don't come back until you learn something else. So I went home, and I learned around midnight.
Nice, easy song.
No. I
was thinking maybe Bye Bye Blackbird or something, around midnight.
I learned in G, and I myrtleized it, as Curly would say. But I learned. I learned. So that's how I got started.
Did you do this for years, or did you just take lessons, or?
I did it for years. I did go. He sent me to see Lena McLin, Dr. Lena McLin, who at that time was a voice teacher at Kenwood. And I went to her home, and she said, "I don't take money." Hold on a second, Roberta Flack's on the phone. So she's like, "Hey, Roberta, what's up?" I'm like, "Oh my God, sorry." And she worked with me for about not quite a year, a little under a year, breathing.
She didn't take money?
She would not take money.
What was she doing? She just wanted to give back?
She wanted to give back. She was a teacher.
Yeah.
She was a teacher.
Wow.
She still is teaching. And Von, I got something that I didn't know everyone else got. Von would take me to his house and teach me songs. He loved Billie Holiday. He adored Billie Holiday. And he taught me this whole Billie Holiday repertoire songbook. And his mom was alive, and his mom would come downstairs, and she would critique me, and George was there. I met his brother Bruz, who would be in and out of town. It was amazing. And I thought everybody had this experience with Von, but then talking to people, I realized they didn't. That they didn't.
He only took a few people under his wing, right?
Under his wing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're learning from the greatest.
I did learn. I learned from the greatest.
There's something that broke you out of the learning mode and put you into the professional performing mode.
Well, Vaughn, the jam session was a training ground. Vaughn decided that I was going to be the hostess for the jam session.
Okay.
So we had moved to the new apartment by then, and he said, "Baby, from now on, I want you to run the jam session because one day I'm going to be gone, and you got to keep this going." So I started running the jam session, and I realized I'm starting to act like Vaughn. You know, people will walk out, "Hey, baby, where you going with two men?" You know, I started. Oh, you gonna have a good night. You know, just Von Freeman. You know.
Right.
But I that's where I started.
He said a few things to me.
He said something.
Some were really good, but that took it had to be bad first to get to the good part. You know.
Yeah, it had to be bad before. And he was honest. He was an honest person.
Oh yeah, he was brutal.
Oh my God, he was brutal. My short story. One night he had me come up and sing, and I was filling my oats like I'm the best singer in the house. Catherine Whitney was there. We were there together. Yep. And we doing our little stuff, and I sang "You Changed," and and I sat down, and there was a woman in the back of the bar, and she had on a head wrap, and she looked at me, she said, "If you practice, you'd be good." So I kind of gave it a look like, the side eye. Like, yeah, okay. I said, yeah, thank you. And Vaughn said, "Betty Boop, why don't you come up here and show them how it's done?" It was Betty Carter.
Oh.
I could have just crawled under the bar. So, you learn. I learned to be humble.
So now, I'm glad we talked all about Vaughn because that leads us directly into the Southside Jazz Coalition, which is the mission of
the Southside Jazz Coalition is about 4 paragraphs, but in a nutshell, it's to keep jazz alive on the South Side. There are no jazz clubs south of Madison Street.
But it was also to keep Vaughn's
and to keep
legacy.
Vaughn's legacy, because Vaughn, Dwayne Armstrong, saxophone player, he made us promise to always have somewhere free. There should always be someplace free where people can go. If they don't have any money, just a little money for a drink, just go in and listen to some jazz. So even before the Southside Jazz Coalition, remember I was at the 50-yard line.
Yep.
I was there for 5 years?
Yeah.
And it was free. Just come in and play. Just come in and just enjoy yourself. If you can't put in a ducat in the bucket, as Vaughn would say, if you can't put a ducat in the bucket, it's okay. Next time you come in, maybe you'll have $5 and you could throw it in there to pay the musicians. So.
Right. And I jumped the gun. Why don't we talk about when you guys started the Southside Jazz Coalition? Was it just your idea, like, I've got to start this to keep Vaughn's legacy alive, or how did that happen?
It's kind of hilarious. I was going to More Better Jazz.
Yep.
Darius Lawrence, and I would go to his events on Friday nights, and I had been telling Charles, I'm going to start a nonprofit because we don't have enough jazz on the South Side, and I said that over and over to him. He said, "Well, just do it. Get it done." So I was writing the paper up. And I was at Mo Better Jazz, and I was talking to Darius, who I didn't even know well. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Darius, I really want to start a nonprofit and try to work on getting more jazz on the South Side." He said, "I was just telling my wife that." I said, "Let's go to breakfast in the morning." So the next morning we went to breakfast, and we sat down, and we drafted up the first proposal of starting the Southside Jazz Coalition. And that's how it started. It started at breakfast on 75th and Exchange.
That's how stuff happens.
Yes.
That's how stuff
Over
happens.
eggs.
Okay, now before I get into my 3 picks of the week, we've talked about the Southside Jazz Coalition.
Yes.
But you have, first let's talk about the jam session that you do. We talked all about Von Freeman's legacy, and this is a way for you to keep Von's legacy alive, right, on the South Side.
Yes, it is.
And so why don't we talk about that? You have something coming up February 13th, this Tuesday.
Yes.
Why don't we get into it? So this is a monthly jam session.
Von Freeman had a Tuesday night jam every Tuesday night for, as he would say, years. And I felt that the onus was on me as one of his children, musical children, to also follow suit. So I was blessed enough to do it at the 50-yard line for a number of years. And now we've rebooted, and we are doing it the second Tuesday. Thank you to the Jazz Foundation of America for being our sponsors. Second Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
7 to 10.
And where is it?
It is at St. Augustus Tolton Catholic School, which is the school attached to St. Columbanus Church. Right across from A.A. Rayner Funeral Home. It's not like a commercial. But 71st and Calumet, 7120 Calumet, I've got a huge red sign, so you can't miss the entrance. And that's the spot.
Now, you also have some exciting stuff coming up for yourself.
I do.
So before we get into my 3 picks of the week, let's talk about it. First off, you're starting a regular gig.
I'm starting I have the vocalist dream. It's our fantasy to have a regular gig because those are disappearing.
Yes.
In this city and from what I hear all over the country. So I'm going to be starting at Benny's Chop House as their Saturday night singer. And that's going to be this Saturday, the
17th.
The 17th.
17th.
From 7 to, what did I say?
7 to 11:30.
7 to 11:30. And this Saturday, the wonderful Miguel de la Serna will be playing piano for me.
Oh, that's dynamite.
Yes, it's going to
wow.
be. It's going to be good.
So that's at 444 North Wabash.
Wabash, yes.
Wabash and Grand.
Wabash and Grand.
Upstairs, though.
Upstairs, yes.
It's upstairs,
It's
right
upstairs.
there. Actually, it's right, a lot of you folks
down the
will
bridge.
remember, it's right where the old Jazz Record Mart used to be.
Exactly.
It's right next door to that. So that's Benny's Chop House. And of course, all the information. Now, you have your own website.
I have my own website, margaretcmurphy.com.
margaretcmurphy.com.
And as soon as I leave here, I'm going to put it on there.
You also are doing an exciting thing because you're part of the Jazz City concert series that the Jazz Institute and the Park District sponsor. And this is coming up on March 9th.
Yes.
And let me get the right name of it because they've got it here. It's called The Ladies, the Women of Chicago Jazz at 7 p.m. Now, I talked to Lauren Deutsch, the executive director of the Jazz Institute, and she talked about how they're picking different artists for an entire year. And this year it's Von Freeman's 95th birthday.
Yes.
So they're picking Von's legacy, and the whole entire Jazz City is kind of devoted to Von. So that's March 9th. That's at the Garfield Park Conservatory. Of course, all the information is going to be at jazzinchicago.org, the Jazz Institute, and at your website, which is
www.margaretcmurphy.com.
excellent. All right, so now it's time for my 3 picks of the week. And now you've probably seen the show before, so I have to do my disclaimer, because my disclaimer is that these are my 3 picks of the week. These are the 3 picks. These are the 3 places that I would probably send somebody that is a casual music fan, somebody that's interested in finding out about live music, not quite sure what they want to hear. Maybe they like jazz, maybe they don't, but they would probably dig some of these performances.
Okay.
Of course, my disclaimer is these are not the only performances that you should go see in the city of Chicago. All the information is on ChicagoJazz.com. These are simply my 3 picks that I think that you can't go wrong if you have no idea of who to see, where to go, and what to do this coming weekend. So let's kick it off. I've got 2 early warnings, which is the next week. So the first early warning is the Elmhurst Jazz Festival. You know,
can't
this is
go wrong.
the
You can't go wrong.
51st year of the Elmhurst Jazz Festival, happening, of course, at Elmhurst College. Featured performers, of course, it's February 22nd through the 25th. It features over 100 college and high school big bands throughout the entire day. And then they have featured performers each night. One night they have Arturo O'Farrell and the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra. Maria Schneider Orchestra is going to be performing there. Sean Jones, trumpet player Sean Jones, is going to be in town. That's going to be smoking. Jiggs Wiggum, trombonist, he's going to be in town playing there. And Matt Wilson, great percussionist, great drummer. They're all going to be at the Elmhurst College Jazz Festival. So get all the information on ChicagoJazz.com. Another early warning, it's a brand new jazz series. I mentioned it in a couple of episodes ago. It's UIC, University of Illinois in Chicago, right there in the West Loop, we'll say.
Yes.
It's a brand new concert series that JAMEY AEBERSOLD is putting on. It's called the JAMEY AEBERSOLD Jazz Concert Series, and February 21st, in a very small, intimate space at UIC,
Oh, that's nice.
is Howard Levy and Chris Siebel duo.
That's going to be the bomb.
And
That's going to be the bomb.
and it's free.
I-
There it is, right? It's free. Now, that's incredible. So all the information is going to be on ChicagoJazz.com. So it's February 21st, UIC, JAMEY AEBERSOLD Jazz Concert Series featuring Howard Levy and Chris Siebel. Let's jump into a couple of clubs.
Let's go.
All right. Valentine's Day. We got to do this right off the bat. Valentine's Day, Winters Jazz Club, right there in Streeterville. I know you've performed there.
Yes. Oh, that's a wonderful club.
The owner's killing. We love Scott.
Yes.
He's got music there Tuesday through Sunday. It's an incredible space right there on the Ogden Slip, McClurg Court, Illinois Street. Can't beat it. Intimate space. But Valentine's Day night, Dana Hall Trio, featuring Alyssa Allgood, the great
that's gonna
vocalist
be a
Alyssa Allgood.
wonderful
And they are doing Body and Soul, a Valentine's Day songbook.
Oh. Oh, that's going to be so nice.
Valentine's Day night, you can't go wrong. So wintersjazzclub.com, all the information. That's Alyssa Allgood with the Dana Hall Trio doing Body and Soul, a Valentine's Day songbook right there at Winters. My pick for Valentine's Day night. February 16th and 17th, Friday and Saturday at the Green Mill, Peter Bernstein Quartet. He's in town. That is going to be swinging and smoking right there in Uptown. Of course, they have live music 7 days a week there until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning some nights.
My old beat.
That's right.
my
That's
old
right. So right there in Uptown, Green Mill, can't go wrong, February 16th and 17th, Peter Bernstein Quartet. And of course, all the information is at chicagojazz.com. So as I always say, if I don't see you somewhere this week, hopefully I will see you somewhere out on the scene.